Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. And today we have with us John Hittler, who is a transformational business coach. Welcome to the program, John.
Thanks, Mike. Glad to be here.
Hey, so I love how when I see people's either emails or websites or kind of tagline like transformational business coach, so many times people just say I'm a business coach and assume that that's what people will understand what they mean. But a transformational business coach really gives a little bit of a more punch and more focus, obviously focusing on transformation, not just giving you information, kind of like the old knowledge is power, but you have to implement it. So tell us a little bit about your background and what is a transformational business coach.
Sure. So my background is as an entrepreneur. I'm an economist by trade. I've started 9 businesses, 2 of which were, by any measure, good success, 7 of which were either break even or you could smell the tar and see the feathers. Some of them were that bad. But you learn from all of them. And what I noticed after, or pretty far in, after 7 or 8, one of the skill sets that kept coming up is people said, you're a natural at what I call creating seemingly impossible outcomes. And it was interesting because I was doing consulting work because of that. And they said, can you come in and coach and they kept asking me to coach, even though I wasn't a coach. I was an entrepreneur. I was a CEO. And so what I realized is, you know what, that skill or that talent is a great fit for coaching because I can take on other companies' big challenges without having to own them.
Yeah.
And I can help them transform. And usually it was in the overcoming of those challenges that they were transforming because you simply can't just keep doing more of what you're doing or do it a little better. Oftentimes you have to literally become a different human being or a different company or a different culture in order to get what you want. And that's really about transformation. It's more challenging to do, way more fun. So that's how I came to it, because I don't tend to work with people that want to get incrementally a little bit better, or they want to learn how to do a safety procedure compliantly. I'm terrible at that. I don't do the same thing the same way twice. Transformation is a fun place to work. It's just been this good fit.
As you were describing that, it gave me the connotation, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it gave me the connotation that you are attracting or speaking to people that are not tire kickers. They are ready to jump in with both feet and get her done, right? Because if someone is resonating with the word transformation, they know they're going to need to roll up their sleeves and get something done. So are you finding that, maybe you've worked with a few people that were like, oh, thanks, John, appreciate your advice, and then they never do anything, but now transformational, it's like, let's get something happening.
It's interesting. You've hit on a perfect theme, and that is they've got something big at stake.
Yeah.
And what and clients before they engage always ask one question: what will guarantee that we'll have success? And the real answer is courage. But when people hear courage, they hear that as a very high bar.
Yeah.
And if you look at courage on a spectrum, all the way on the easy or the diluted or the watered down version of courage is what I would call willingness. If they're willing to try, if they're willing to play, if they're willing to take steps forward, they'll succeed. It's the ones that come in and say, Mike, we need you to come in and do all this. You go, no, not my company. I can't be the one that owns this. If you guys, unless you want to hire me and have me work there for the rest of my life, you guys need to take this on.
Yeah. So
they have to be willing to play that way. They will have to be willing to try that, and they certainly have to be willing to try something different that got them into the situation that they no longer want to be in. And it's as simple as that. And if they can be willing and play, I can design it so that whatever they do is actually safer than what they were doing and more attractive. So most of the time they say, well, why would we not do that? Yeah. Why would you not do that? But a lot of times people want it to be my poor language, entitlement. They say, well, we're entitled to have a successful company. And go, no, you're really not. Nobody gives a crap except you whether you succeed. So you're going to have to own this.
And also, don't you agree that the people that have that entitlement mentality of, sounds good, John, appreciate all your insights, just come here and do it for us, and then if you were, or some company were to come in and just do it all, they don't have any skin in the game, and they don't appreciate the work it took to make that change, transformation, improvement, and then maybe it just kind of falters from there. But the ones that roll up their sleeves and see the vision, jump in and go, okay, we're going to change this, polish that, update this, now they kind of are learning along the way, and they got that skin in the game. They put effort in, and then it sticks.
It's funny because I get this in a different version. People obviously they want to be fiscally responsible, and I charge on the higher end of the scale, but it always is dictated. The investment is always dictated by the return on investment.
Yep.
And the reason I do that is on purpose, because if the return on investment is worth it, then there should be no problem at all making the initial investment of time. Really, it's more time, focus, and, of course, money. But I get people that say, well, if you're so good, why don't you do it for free and we'll pay in the back end? I say, with no skin in the game,
yep,
you won't ever show up. You're going to make me do all the work. And that's the only reason I do it that way, is because it dictates that the willingness or the courage that it'll take, because they say, wait a minute, we just invested this 2 day off, we did a 2 day offsite, or we invested this kind of money, or we have 4 people working here. Gosh darn it, we better get some return from this. Let's actually take this seriously. And you've probably done it too. I have pro bono clients, and they're great, but it's the ones where I made the mistake of discounting to a point where literally they have a conversation in their head about, you know what, there's a sales call on the other line, and I could make $1,000 if I take the sales call and succeed, but I'm not paying the coach that much. They actually cancel on me at the last minute because it's just an economic thing. And you go, that's stupid. And that's stupid from my point. So I make sure that the skin in the game, that they actually own the results, because the truth is they're not going to go to their stakeholders and their investors in their company or their customers and say, you know what, we're just a bunch of idiots. All the credit goes to our coach. No. They don't have an MVP in the Super Bowl for the coach. They say Tom Brady won the MVP or LeBron won the MVP because they actually do the playing. Yes, the coach helps, but if you're going to own the results, you got to play. You got to be the one that shows up and plays.
Yeah, I love it. It reminds me of there's an old quote by an old Thomas Paine is the quote where it comes from, but it says, "What we obtain too cheaply, we esteem too lightly." Yes. Yeah.
I like that you go way back for that one. He's way old school.
Yeah, he really is. I love the old, Napoleon Hills and think the magic of thinking big, David Schwartz. I mean, it's neat when you can see the foundational things. And today's authors they're just kind of polishing up some of the old theories. We need to keep both contemporary and the older ones. But yeah, you're right. So hey, you talk about genius talent. Tell us about genius talent and how do you find it?
Sure. So it's our core trademarked process. Here's the theory. I've been fascinated with this idea that could it be that you have what I call a singular gift of genius level talent, and I have one too, and they're different. I have 2 partners, and the theory we took, and we didn't try to prove it scientifically, is, what if it were in your DNA? Then by definition, scientifically, like if you leave DNA at a crime scene, we can tell you were there, not me. What if your talent were also included in your DNA as well? And so that's the theory we took, that you have a singular gift and it's so unique. And then what we knew, the real problem, we hypothesized about that. Then we said, what if we had a suitcase with $1 million cash, and I put Mike in the room and said, Mike, you get the $1 million. We'll give you an hour, and you've got to write down what your genius level talent is, so that everyone can understand it, and then you get the $1 million. And we found no one had a clue. He said, "I'm kind of good at this, but that," and it sounded like a profession. So I say, I'm pretty good at teaching. Teaching is not singularly unique. It's just not. So we developed a process that teases it out of people in 2 hours. It's fun, it's intuitive, and what I love about it is a lot of people at the end of 2 hours cry because it hits them like a ton of bricks, and they say, how did you know this? I said, I met you for the first time on the phone. I have no idea. They say, well, how were you able to get this? This is so me. And I say, yeah. Well, I didn't know who you were. We developed a process that's agnostic or unbiased. And I kid with people, if, let's say, I was going to do that with you for 2 hours, and we were going to have your mom sit in on it, and your mom got to contribute to it, the end result would be all of the wishes, dreams, and projections your mom thinks are true that really aren't. So play a little bit here. What would your mom throw into yours that really isn't true, but your mom wants it to be true?
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be like drawing off of childhood things like, oh, we'd grow up to be a doctor, lawyer kind of a thing, but and their values.
Oh, Mike, you were incredibly musically talented. You said, Mom, you made me take piano lessons for 2 years, and I hated it.
Yep.
But your mom held it that you were a child prodigy, and you go, Mom, I wasn't. I sucked at clarinet, Mom. I was terrible. Oh, no, Mike, you're so good. My mom would do the same thing, and that's why they're no good. Yeah. And an unbiased observer with a good process can tease it out because I don't have a dog in the fight. I don't care what it is other than we find it. And what happens is when we present it to people, like with a mirror, they look in the mirror and say, how did you know this?
I was literally thinking of the word bias before you said that, because we all have a bias, and it might be drawing from our childhood or what people have said to us, or, we feel like, oh, we're not worthy, whatever that is. And I think that really draws it out. And what you're describing to me sounds similar to what I kind of think of it as, like the laddering questioning. So it's kind of like, oh, tell me what's important about that to you. And they mention something. Oh, that's really powerful. Now, what about that is super important? And then it just kind of takes them through till finally they get to the point where, oh my word, I never would have connected point A to point D or C or whatever. So that's really insightful.
It's fun, it's intuitive, and the language, like my language, the simple talents I have is my genius talent is creating seemingly impossible outcomes that address multiple diverse agendas. And people say, where the heck did you find that? And I said, my partners drew that out of me. Because you can't find that on any standardized test. Yeah. I said that stuff, but I didn't even realize I said it. They drew it out of me. And then when they presented it back, well, I've done 2 hostage negotiations. I talked my way into Georgetown University. I didn't apply, and I wasn't accepted, and I showed up on registration day, like first day of classes. And 3 days later, I was in the freshman class with a full ride, and 4 years later, and people said, you can't do it. That's I wasn't bright enough at 18 to realize that that's not possible. I didn't have any other choice. I probably did, but I didn't have a backup plan, I should say. It never dawned on me that this wouldn't work. But had you told me then that I had this natural gift, and probably if people went to Vegas, they would have bet on me. I've since done it with families with kids going to colleges, now colleges that are impossible to get into. And I said, well, why don't we do the same thing? And say, well, you did that back in the Stone Age, but you can't do it now. And I said, why? It's the same. They say, well, how do you do it? We'll find out when we get there. Yeah. Because the truth is, I don't have it's not a linear process. If it were a linear process, I could publish it on the internet and everybody would get into Harvard. Yep. So, this idea that it's innate and intuitive, that's why I think it's part of your DNA. I don't try to prove that, or I don't keep scientific, no, but this is the way we think of it, is that literally you're different than every other person on the planet with your talent. And imagine the problems or challenges we would solve just in the United States, but in the universe, if everyone, or even if a portion of people worked in their genius talent. We'd solve homelessness, we'd solve the education problem, we'd solve healthcare, we'd solve clean water, we'd solve climate change, we'd solve everything, because people would say, are you kidding me? I can do that. Yeah. And we'd say, yeah, Mike, you would be the perfect guy. And so I know, but I'm a math teacher in junior high school. And you go, that's okay. Your genius talent would be perfect for solving climate change. You go, great, put me on the committee. I'll head the committee. Because talent is talent. Talent is not a profession. So
Yeah,
So
you're clinging to that comfort zone, and I would suspect that you have a lot of people that once they you speak into them that genius talent from that non-biased third party perspective, and they start getting their wheels turning in that new direction.
It does. It's interesting. Rarely do people after the process change their profession. What they change is they change the way they do their profession. Because we ask people all the time. I ask my CEOs. I've done the process with every one of them. What's the right way to be a CEO? And if you look at the New York Times bestseller list, there's 50 versions of the right way to be a leader or to be chairman, because it's somebody else's version. And the truth is, it won't work 100% for you. There are tips you could take away from it, but none of those are authentically you. So you could read all of them and even get contradictory advice. So there's one way for you to be a CEO, and it's the way that you are hardwired. And even if that, let's say thematically that your genius talent revolved all around a theme of empathy, could you be a fabulous CEO? Sure you could. Yeah. But what won't work is for you to be a hard ass.
Yep.
If you're naturally hardwired to be empathetic, you being a hard ass because a New York Times best-selling book said in order to succeed as a CEO, you got to be a hard ass. It just won't work.
Because it's not part of your,
we do this to ourselves.
Yeah, your DNA. Yeah.
Right, or we appeal to the job description or the roles and responsibilities. We say you have to do. Well, yes, I have to get that done, but there's a lot of leeway in how I do it. And there's probably on any job description, I can't imagine there's a human being on earth for which 10 to 25% of what's on there is a horrible fit for their skill set. Yeah. Like terrible. But you're not allowed to give it away. So then people suffer and go, oh, I like everything about the job except, God, I hate doing expense reporting. They make me do it. And then that just it's just soul sucking. And you go, why don't you have somebody else do the expense reporting? Well, it's because I took the trip, and so I have to do all my expense, and it takes me forever, and I can never find the receipts, and then they don't pay me, and then I'm mad because I don't get. It's crazy that you're doing that when someone else who's probably really good at it and likes it and says, "Oh yeah, I put everything in order, and it's really organized." But we all have that because. But
then when you're operating in your zone of genius talent, you don't even think you're lifting a finger.
No, in fact, it looks like play. That's the great thing. It's both enjoyable. Like for me, it's like an adrenaline rush because if it's impossible, right off the bat, you say, "Oh man, this is going to be fun." But it's like a 4-dimensional puzzle, and you go, "Huh." Yeah. At the beginning, I have no idea. I sign up before I even know. I mean, when they say impossible, then I'm in because that language even draws me in. And when somebody comes to me, if you came to me and said, "I got a little problem I need help with," immediately I'm shut down. Little problem doesn't work for me at all. It literally shuts my system down. When somebody comes and says, "We got this impossible situation, we don't know how to solve it. Could you lend a hand?" I go, "Impossible situation? Excuse me?" It's like Lassie. Lassie. Here's a child fell down the well at the old Johnson's estate, and here comes Lassie barking at you. Go, what is that, Lassie? Yeah, okay. Down the abandoned well at the Johnson estate. Okay, let's go, and everybody knows what they're talking about. Same thing. The language does the same. It either shuts you down, or Lassie comes in and rolls you in the project, and you're off to the races.
Because it's simple and clear and concise.
Right, and yours will be as oddly unique as anyone else's, and you go, really? This is what I should do in everything. In parenting, in being a friend, in being a producer, an entrepreneur, or being having a career. I should just do it all through my genius, and life is way more fun. And of course, so much more. It's so much less effort. You just say, "Wow, this was a great day." You're totally energized at the end of the day, and you say, "Yeah, what I got to do was do this." You go, "Cool, that's totally cool."
So it sounds
to me, will be different than mine.
Exactly. It sounds like we're talking about genius talent from the business perspective, but then you just mentioned a couple things where it sounds like it flows over and kind of envelops all areas of your life.
Well, yes, because let's say, I'll go back to empathy. Let's say you're an incredibly empathetic person and your talent reflects it. I don't have language for it, and I'm making this up. The way that you would be a friend or a parent would, if it were required that you employ empathy, you're going to be a fabulous spouse, friend, parent, coworker, doesn't matter. And if you're, I don't know if you remember the trend, and it probably still goes on today, but where parents, and it was a generation that was doing this for a while, they were all reading these books about parenting because it was suddenly, after millions of years of raising children, nobody knew how to do it the right way. So somebody wrote some best-selling books, and everybody started reading these books and saying, oh, you got to do this, that, and the other. The one that drove me nuts the most was the use your words. It's like my kid comes up to your kid and punches him right in the face, and you're supposed to use your words and say, Jimmy, I don't feel that made me feel bad. And you go, really? That's what the book says? Come on. Not that your kid should have then punched my kid back in the face, but you kind of go, that's silly. At some level it's silly because it actually facilitated kids doing anything they wanted, knowing that the only consequence was they were going to have to listen to your kids' complaint about how it made them feel. So that's stupid. Definitely stupid. But if you could engage empathy or great listening as a friend, you'd be a fabulous friend. If you have to be the guy that shows up every Saturday morning with a pickup truck and a strong back, and you're that kind of friend, or you drive everybody to the airport, that doesn't take advantage of how you're naturally wired. Doesn't mean you couldn't show up with a pickup truck on moving day, but there are friends that literally they help 12 people a year move and go, and they love it. I would hate that. I don't mind once in a while. I would hate that, but that's how they friend. They show up physically and they take a stand. Oh, well, if that's who you are, that's great. And if you were the empathetic one, you'd be the one I could call at 2 a.m. when my wife just kicked me out of the house. Oh, that's a different kind of friend. And you would be not so good on Saturday morning with a pickup truck, and I would be not so good at 2 a.m. because I would hang up on you. And neither one is right or wrong. It's just it's finding the right person. And it's funny because in friends, we tend to know what kind of friend, like who people are, because we don't have a career as a friend. So we say, you know what? Mike's the guy that I can call from a Fresno jail at 2:30 in the morning. He'll wire me $2,500 and he won't tell my wife. Oh. Now, how many friends do we have like that? If we're lucky, one. We don't have 12 like that. But isn't it nice to know that you have that one friend, because you couldn't just go in your phone and start dialing people and saying, let me see if I can convince this guy to do it. No, he's not going to do it. He won't answer the call, or or he's a blabbermouth. He will tell you what, or he doesn't have $2,500, or he's judgmental. He'll say, you know what, you did the time, you did the crime, you do the. There's the one friend though that you say, you know what? I have one friend like that. Good. You also have one friend that you can call and say, we got to move 3 couches this weekend, and I know you've got an extra long bed pickup truck. Hey, could you come by and help us? And they can't wait to get there. In fact, they'll bring donuts and be there early.
Yep.
That's how they're hardwired. Good.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
And if you're not hardwired that way, don't try to be that.
Right. Right. So when you make me the guy that has to show up with a pickup truck and donuts, I can do it, but it's not so authentic. And I don't even mind doing it, depending on who the person is, if I care about it. But some people will go out of their way to do it, and they say, hey, I heard that there's a moving party at somebody's house. They go, do you even know that guy? Yeah, I think I met him. At Rotary Club. Oh, great. You want to come along? Yeah, I got nothing going on Saturday morning. I'll bring my pickup truck. And you go, that guy's nuts. But that's how they're hardwired. Good. Yep. There will be people like that, because it ain't me.
Right. That's right.
And I'm guessing it's not you either. You're not the donut guy or the pickup guy.
Right. We got to find our genius talent. Well, hey, John, is awesome just chatting through some of these ideas. What's the best way that people can pick up either a copy of your book or looking more into discovering their genius talent?
Yeah, so I'm blessed that I have a horrendously bad last name. So people say, oh, gosh, you got a business card? No, my last name is Hittler. Google me. And the SEO, the first 50 SEOs are me. So I'm one of 9 kids, but if you put in John Hittler, I'm the only thing that shows up for miles on the internet. So, and then it'll take you to our website. It'll take you to LinkedIn. It'll take you to all forms of social media that are there. That's the easiest thing. And generally speaking, I reach out. I respond to my own correspondences. So if you send me a note or whatnot, I'm happy to talk to you.
Excellent. Well, John, thank you so much for your time. It was wonderful getting to know you.
Mike, thanks for having me.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.